Hello, all. Welcome to this Sustainability Simply Put Talk series, the sixth episode where we have Thara, who is our guest speaker for today, and we will be discussing about ESG and corporate sustainability simply so that we all can understand it. Let me quickly introduce Thara, who is the founder of ESG Minds. So she already has grasped this task of simplifying sustainability for people, and also she is experienced IT professional. And then how she acquired the expertise in ESG, so that will be interesting to know. Welcome, Thara, for this talk series, and thank you so much for your time. I'll request you to quickly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dhananjay, and thank you for having me today. Quick introduction to myself. As you said, my name is Thara. I have established an initiative that I have named as ESG Minds. It is established with an objective to provide sustainability services and solutions to businesses and other entities within and outside India. Today, I collaborate with a group of other startups, a network of freelancers, and academia to provide these services. So prior to this, I have pretty much used my time, worked only with TCS for over 2 decades, completely with the IT background. And through my career journey there, I have gone through the various roles of technical, managerial, business, and sales roles. So that's about the quick techno and functional background about myself. And I think I will reflect most on myself and my interests through our conversation.
Okay, great. Your business, I guess, that is ESG Minds, right? Your startup. Can I call it startup or?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is established as a private limited company.
Okay, great. So as a ESG Mind, so first question that comes is, what is the ESG? What is the need? Why people should understand it as a business or as a person?
So before even we come to explore ESG, the bigger word or concept in my mind is sustainability.
Right.
So I have a very simple definition for sustainability, which I say it is our ability to do things in a way that is fair, productive, and long-term value creating to all stakeholders. Stakeholders as in wherein we count even society and environment as an equal and direct stakeholder to everything that we do. And when I say our ability, it is the ability of global organizations like UN and WHOs and World Economic Forums of the world. It is the ability of global governments as to how they conduct their own countries. It is the ability of corporates and startups and MSMEs as to how they conduct their businesses. It is the ability of every society and community to serve their purpose. It is the ability of every individual. So in my mind, sustainability is a super horizontal that cuts across every vertical, every context, every entity, and every individual. But then how do we measure the fairness, or how do we measure the long-term value creation through the angles of all these different stakeholders that we talked about, right? So that is where the term ESG comes into play, environmental, social, and governance. It is a set of metrics that makes it easy for us to track, measure, and report the sustainability performance of an entity. But then if we go back to the definition, right, it is the basic. I mean, do things right, do things in a fair way. This is the basic, right? This is what we keep hearing from day one, from within our family, when we go to school, from our community. This is what we hear.
Right.
Then what is so different about that? This whole focus has now come on to this topic and everybody is talking about it. And this has become a big word, buzzword for everybody. And there is no exception. So what has happened right now, and I would look at it in this way, this is because now we have very strong evidences that are available to us, which very clearly tells us that we have been living on this planet in ways that are dangerously, I would say, unfair and greedy, ways that we have literally pushed our planet to an existential threat. And what kind of evidences? Let's say evidence number one, the risk report that comes out every year, right? The global, the top
global risk report.
Risk reports. What are the major, huge risks that are against humanity, right? Up until 2015, if you see, our identified risks were around economic aspects, around geopolitical tensions, around technology aspects, and even cybersecurity were all used to get listed in the top risks of humanity. But starting 2017, very quickly, we started converging our risks purely onto environmental and social aspects. Purely 2017 onwards, almost top 5 risks are always environmental and social. So what are those risks? Risks like extreme weather events, risks like the loss of biodiversity, risks like failing to do the climate action, like social cohesion erosion, involuntary migration, mass migrations that we foresee. All of this started flaring up in our risk list. Suddenly, economy is not a problem. Anything else is not a problem. Suddenly, everything is about the environment and society. So that is one evidence. Let's say, what are the other evidence? Evidence number 2, this huge amount of scientific research and outputs that is made available to us that nobody can ignore right now. Very clear numbers, very clear facts. Like the key reports among them is the IPCC report, right? Very clearly call out that it's a co-threat for humanity. And even the latest report that was released early this week, it says we are at the crossroads and we can either take the highway to the hell or see if we still have an opportunity to make a livable future, right? And when we say, when it comes to nearly half of humanity is living under a clear danger zone. That's what the report says. And look, cities are sinking. Jakarta probably will be 100% underwater in another couple of decades. And Mumbai and Shanghai and New York and Miami and all the small island nations and many more cities are to follow. And when it comes to climate change and extreme weather events, we have no dearth of new record lows and highs that every day it has become a regular event. Even if we are about 30 years old, right? We will clearly see a difference between how things were when we were at younger days and how frequently and how bigger things happen, right? Yes. The deluge, the great deluge of Pakistan last year that happened. China is receiving rainfalls like once in 1,000 years. They've never seen a flood like this. And Mumbai receives 900% more rain than what they're used to in that season. Yes. Pressure cooker like heat waves being reported. All of this, so we are now able to scientifically connect these events to a pure human action. So look at some of the numbers. It's really scary sometimes to see. Just last 50 years of human development has caused 70% of the total biodiversity is lost just in the last 50 years of our development. And look at the Earth Overshoot Day, right? The day by when we completely consume what Earth can regenerate in a year. I mean, it's falling on May 13th. And if you are consuming like a US or a Canada or a UAE, their Earth Overshoot Day is already in the first week of March. It is over.
Yeah, less than a quarter we have completed, we have exhausted all the resources for a year. So that's fully alarming.
And if all of us start to live like an American citizen, we will need 5.5 Earths to survive. I mean, these are very, very clear indicators that you cannot ignore anymore. So yes. I think this awareness and this increasing weather events and increasing number of statistics that are made available to us, this has increased the focus on the subject. And add to this mix a pandemic, the current ongoing geopolitical tensions, economic turbulence, the millennial push. All of this has pushed us to get to some global goals such as UN Sustainable Development Goals, be it Paris Agreement, be it the global commitment to get to net zero by 2050. So these are now getting converted into actions. Actions like new policies and regulations are falling in place. National budgets are getting aligned. There is a demand for sustainable businesses. Investments are getting redirected into the ESG space. And there is a huge demand for better disclosures and reporting. So all of this is now coming onto the space, pushing up. And that's where I think the whole conversation and the buzzword and ESG and sustainability is playing out so very clearly and so frequently in front of us.
Yes. And now it's very clear that what you explain, earlier times it was climate change will happen. Extreme weather events will happen. But now every day, even youth, even school children can see that, oh, these are the extreme weather events. So it's very evident and no one should question now about the possibility of climate change because it's already there.
True.
So yeah, that's very clear. But I guess the question here remains is, how do we act, right? So why is, I guess, clear to everyone that yes, it's happening, but how do we act in such a way that we become a part of solution and not the problem. I guess ESG framework is one of the attempt to provide a solution. What are your thoughts on this? How exactly the ESG gets into action for the organizations and for the people overall?
Since you said, and as I said, it is applicable for everyone, right? Since you said organization, probably for this discussion, we can focus on corporate sustainability. I mean, if we start to talk about governments, then that is a whole different set of things. And if we start to talk about society, that would be a whole different set of things. And since the conversation is about corporate and what businesses do, I would say that because of all this happening, this has been an extremely happening space for corporates. And a lot of things has happened. I would say to start with, we have established an international sustainability standards board, just like how we have financial standards board, right? There is globally, and under this ISSB now, all the standard setters are coming together to define a consolidated framework. At least by beginning of 2024, we all have something that is globally acceptable and global standard that we can have to. So that's the first thing to fall in place. And let's say when it comes to the boardrooms, definitely the mindset has changed. There is a significant increase in awareness as to how the boards are responding to it. And there is more understanding as to what is the specific role and responsibility of a board when it comes to sustainability of a business. This is getting more and more clear. I can clearly see from how the interactions used to happen about 3 years ago and now, the difference in the attitude of the board is very clearly seen. Earlier, it was just a tick mark, or it was more a sarcastic conversation whenever we talked these topics. Right now, it is becoming how this can be a competitive advantage to the business, even beyond your complying to the regulations. This is clearly directing into actions globally. Actions like executive remuneration is getting tied up with the ESG outcomes. And there is sometimes in cases there is mandated ESG committees that is required by regulation that the board has a mandated ESG committee, and this is what they're expected to do. So such things are happening heavily. And if you look at the organization, there is a revamped, enhanced number of chief sustainability officers being established. And many companies are now putting in place an exclusive sustainability team. Many companies, most Indian companies are just starting to put in that exclusive sustainability team. Whether they are coming under the purview of regulation or not, they are starting to do that. And their enterprise risk management is definitely including climate risk analysis as part of it. They're looking at the risks, not only risks, but also the opportunities as to how best sustainability can be integrated into their business, into their model, strategy, products, and services. So that is happening right now. That's typically the second step for, I would say, for most companies who are starting on the journey. Their journey starts with reporting. Now that they are reporting, they are forced to measure. Now that they're measuring, there is improvement in their performance. So although it is a bottom-up approach, I would still say that it is good. It's a good start so that we get started with somewhere. But gradually, this will become a top-down approach. And finally, eventually, when you're up against your peers, eventually when the industry is expecting, your investor is asking, and the consumers are looking for, it is only natural that you start to look at how do I integrate more into the business, and reporting only becomes an end activity at the end. This will fall in place. It's no harm that we start with reporting also. I would say the reporting from being, earlier it used to be a goodwill effort or a marketing effort. From that, now you are into a mandated disclosure. Earlier, we could disclose what looked good, to now you have to respond to disclose or explain. After disclosure, I have to explain. So earlier, making some huge celebrated claims, to you have to give an assured certification that this has been verified by a certified agency. So those changes are definitely reflecting on the results also. So it is going in the right direction. I would say in India, the example or the role is rightly set by the government. I just love the way our government has taken a stand and how it is actually leading in many cases. Even though our net zero commitment is to become net zero by 2070, which probably many countries and many analysts would say that, okay, fair enough, because India has not reached our highest peak of industrialization. It is still okay. We reached 2070, and there are criticisms as well. But what I have seen is India always commits less and delivers more. So probably hopefully we'll be able to do it much earlier than that. for the kind of focus that we are putting in the renewable energy. And the last budget itself, it's about 75,000 crores that we have accounted for our net zero transition, including massive green hydrogen projects and renewable energy and transition specific initiatives. So I think this precedent set by the government, and then SEBI didn't take any time, very quick and decisive action in terms of putting in that reporting framework in place, much before many developed countries have done it. And we didn't wait for ISSB to fall in place or their framework to come in, or EU, who's typically the leader, to see what they're doing now. I think it is very comparable with the global formats and very contextualized for Indian situation. So we were very quick and decisive to establish that. And we're also looking at how to regulate ESG rating agencies. We're looking at how to regulate ESG named mutual funds. All of this is, it's all signals that this is an entity who is wanting to do and thinking upfront, not being pulled by some regulation. So I think that reflection is happening well onto the corporates too. As I was saying, all of these things that we just saw, right? How the board is reacting, how the actions are getting tied up, and how the departments are getting built, how reporting happens. All of this is, I think, happening. And another important, very interesting aspects to see is startup ecosystem. I think a good amount of startup innovation and research, the number of green techs and social techs that is coming up, right? And I'm thoroughly impressed by youngsters who are choosing to take risks and not really going after the typical white collar jobs, but they're okay to risk and experiment with. They want to be part of the solving social issues and national cause. So I think those are the good things happening. That's where we stand from a corporate sustainability standpoint.
Yes. Just based on your last comment regarding the interest of youth in climate change or climate friendly technologies, right? So when I interact with the students, even IT students also are preparing the projects related to the climate change, how they can support it, how to build resilience, how to have the alarming system and all that. So that is a positive shift I can see with the college students. And yes, and as we discuss about the ESG investing, and I guess the reporting structure that you explained. So I would like to know more about the reporting. What are the exact procedure if we have to follow, if any organization, and how does that reflect with ESG investing or the green bonds?
As I said, for most organizations, their sustainability journey starts, and for a good part of them ends with reporting. So they probably started thinking about anything at all when a regulation fell in place. So first part is, there are so many Indian companies who used to report according to the global formats even earlier, much earlier. GRI and SASB and TCFD, none of this is new to us. Most of the leading large listed companies used to do this before also.
Right.
And after BRSR fell in place, I think it gave them more seriousness. And for those who are actually doing it, it is kind of encouragement, that it is kind of an encouragement. It is rather than looking at another regulations to watch us over, probably the formats have to get simplified and all that. But then it is an encouragement that the work that we are doing behind now, we have also an opportunity to demonstrate it. To me,
it's a recognition, I guess.
Recognition as well, for those who are already serious about the work, right? And I would always say that reporting is a double-edged sword. It gives you the absolute platform to demonstrate your thought process, which would have otherwise gotten sidelined with your financial aspects. This is now an excellent opportunity for you to demonstrate it. It is an excellent opportunity to tell your stakeholders, your consumers, your future employees, your shareholders, your stakeholders, your society, everybody, as to how you are procuring that license to operate. So that is one way to look at it. And the other way is also that it can also be the cause if you are not prepared for it, and then it can be a complete exposure for you as well. And people are struggling with it as to suddenly, all of a sudden coming and showing all their marketing strategies have been talking big things about how environmentally friendly they are, how socially great CSR they are doing and all this, and suddenly they have data and facts which are being asked to be disclosed, which doesn't really support these claims. So that is the other part of it. And as the years go by, the maturity is only going to increase.
Right.
And I think right now, in Indian situation, the companies still have some time to buy in, to fix things, to put things in place. And there are so many companies who are not coming under the regulation, also have started looking at how to do it. They know that this year it is 1,000 companies, next year it will come to them. So where do I start? How do I start measuring my emissions? How do I start getting my supply chain to be part of all the activities that I'm doing? What are the new corporate policies that I need to put in place? All of these people have started knowing, because very clearly it can be seen that is this something that you put in this year, or is this something established? So that way it is adding to the better action. And when it comes to reporting, I think it also depends on who are the stakeholders that you're trying to impress. Is this just your local regional regulator? Or is this also your entire supply chain that you're providing to even outside your region? And what are their regulations? And therefore, how do I need to behave? And I don't want to be excluded for a specific performance or a specific way of behavior, because the regulation in another country or region doesn't allow for. So I have to be careful of that also. Which investors are you targeting, and what are their objectives? Are they like true, or are they like, what is their level of interest and objectivity in sustainability? How are you aligning to it? Who is watching? Your future employees are watching. Your current employees are watching. The society is watching, because now the society is also more aware as to what they can expect from a business. See, ideally, a business is actually taking away from the society, taking away from the planet, and not paying for it. You're not procuring that social and planet license to operate. Who's paying for it? Like the consumption, right? How is that somebody who's consuming 10 times more, and I have the same earth to share, you're using my fair share of planet.
Right.
So all of this understanding, I think it will add up to your reporting also. So I only hope to see that in the coming years, this will become much simpler, much easier. Just like accounting standards became very standardized, and now it is very easy for us to predict what is right and wrong. And similarly, in the next coming years, this will also stabilize, is what I'm hoping.
Yes, definitely. And when it is in practice and it's being appreciated, the genuine efforts, and also people are seeing that, yes, when we are doing some good work, we are also reaping the benefits of that as well. So definitely that will increase in the next coming years. Before going further, that you discussed a little bit, you touched about it. The term, I guess, is greenwashing. I would like to know more about it, because many of the organizations, even big organizations, are also having some practices which are falling under the greenwashing. And those who are working genuinely also, they also feel intimidated, because what if I am working, it's genuine effort, what if people perceive it as greenwashing? So I guess there is a threat for the organizations, and that I would like to explore more.
In my opinion, right, greenwashing, probably the term has gotten very popular in the last few years because of the whole focus on it. But this practice is not new to us. And as consumers, we have huge level of tolerance and acceptance to this practice. Especially probably in India, we never expect the businesses to stick to their commitments or what they call out in their advertisements or marketing, right? So this is well set in the parts of core of consumerism. And I think the concept is well established within us. Even one of the PwC investor survey that was conducted this year, it was noted that 87% of investors believe that there is some level of greenwashing always involved with what the companies disclose. 11% said we don't know, and only 2% believe that probably they are reporting all right things, which means 98% don't think that there could be something wrong, right? That tells us our level of acceptance for this. So only greenwashing, the term may be new, but the concept and the practice has been pretty much there. Our tolerance was always there. Only thing is, with the renewed focus, now the challenges faced by the companies are multifold, right? And one is the regulations falling in place. As I said, instead of just telling what is looking good, now you have to disclose in a way, disclose or explain. You have to respond to that. Now, instead of and if you are called out for greenwashing, then there is massive image damage to go with it, right? And then you get stereotyped. And after that, how much ever effort that you put in to fix any new initiatives that you bring in, there is always an extra level of scrutiny that the stakeholders apply on it. So, for example, if you say, Shell, they called out, they packaged a specific set of oil as carbon neutral oil. So this is almost an oxymoron. Oil and cannot be carbon neutral.
Right.
So, and how did they explain this? They explained it by saying that because we have already purchased the carbon offsets and credits in equal amounts so that you can happily go and burn this oil. We have already purchased the equal amount of offsets. But then what are they trying to do? It's a general guideline that offsets are to be used only after you meet your targets. And if you want to do above and expected more than that, you can use that offset. So you're being a good business and going ahead and doing what is beyond what is expected out of you. That's when you use offsets. And very clearly, the science-based targets and all very clearly lay out this guideline that it is only a very small percentage of your total target that you can call it out as a 1 or 2% that you can actually go with offsets. Right. So they are consciously hiding that fact, and this is like a calculated, you are consciously hiding that fact and promoting a product as environmental friendly. So that's one big way of greenwashing. Yeah. And the other is, as I said, getting stereotyped. Like the brand that always comes to my mind who gets stereotyped is H&M. So initially they started with calling a cloth line as environmentally friendly, and when their investigation started, people started asking. They started explaining that they have an internal measurement mechanism, an index with which they decide how environmentally friendly a product is. And this was asked to be exposed. And then when they looked at it, the assessors said that this isn't really adding up. And since then, H&M has every quarter, every half year, every year, they come out with a new idea or something, and they get easily called out. So this is how they try to look the peripheral look good. So you just make your outside view look good. This is what we call as green gloss. They are refusing to change the underlying process, underlying behavior, underlying services. They are refusing to change. So that is green gloss, as we call it. Now let's say what Tesla's news about, right? So they're the biggest EV producers, and they have to be the most environmentally friendly country. The business, right, company. Right. But then what they have ignored is, while their own mission is to accelerate the world's transition into sustainable energy, what they have underplayed or what they have neglected is their own emission. In fact, their own emission became more than ExxonMobil, the oil giant. It is more than that. And they were taken out of the S&P ESG index and added with some, there was reports of human rights violations and the business code of conduct and things like that. They were out of it. And Elon Musk was surprised why a company like Tesla is not in the ESG index. So that is what we call as intentionally downplaying and avoiding facts. And you are showing one part which looks very good for you, and then completely hiding the other part, which is you're not always talking about. That's a green hushing, as we call about, right? And then if we take another example of, let's say Semcorp, which is one of the leading energy players in Singapore. So they decided to launch a set of sustainability-linked bonds. The purchases of the bonds will get a higher rate of interest if the company is able to meet a specific target of sustainability performance. At the end of the year, they could not meet their targets, which means they have to pay a higher rate of interest to the purchases. Right. So in order to avoid that, what they have done is they actually sold 2 coal mines in books. In books, the coal mines have gone to another ownership, which means the emissions have also gone out of their books, but they continue to hold the most of the operational control through other ways. So only in effect, the emissions have gone out and they don't have to pay. So this is outright lies. This is what we call as green crime. This is a crime. So then we have events of that. And eventually, I would say we as consumers are so overwhelmed and skeptical about all these environmental claims and all this, so many products and services coming out. I would say that we are undergoing green fatigue. And these are all industry terms. I didn't use them. These are all industry terms. Yes. So the consumer world is going through the green fatigue right now. So I think greenwashing is now as common practice as a regulated, mandated practice. That's how it is.
But yeah, this needs to be controlled, I guess, because what will happen, even we are, let's say, in this field of ESG or sustainability awareness, and still we get confused. Then what will be the level of confusion or fatigue for the people who are not, and everyone is not having that much time to invest in learning and reading all about it. So that clarity or transparency will be required in ESG to move the goal of sustainability, achieving the net zero and having truly sustainable society that we all desire. So
in fact, that is where the rating agencies and assurance agencies come into play, and we don't have to understand all the terminology and technicalities of how this is arrived at. And we hope that the systems will fall in place where we can easily see those things, just like in financial accounting.
Yes, so it will be easier for all of us.
True.
My next question would be how you came into this field, because what I find difficult is whenever a person is working, let's say in IT industry, then the care for the environment or the sustainability awareness, so that is little rare for the people. And personally, my interest is how do we educate to the people from different walks of life for sustainability, for ESG. This question is to understand what was your motive to get you from IT to the ESG to the sustainability and taking this baton forward for sustainability awareness.
So I would say that I did not plan this. I did not even know that this happened. I did not make a strategy and plan to come out of IT to sustainability. It did not happen that way. So I resigned from my active corporate job without any specific plans, because I just wanted to relook at how I want to spend the next 10 to 15 years professionally and from a personal priorities. How do I want to spend it? And I thought I'll keep the options very open. And in the next few months, a couple of months that I tried to look around and settle down with my own priorities, I thought I was aligning myself more with corporate governance, board of directors. I thought that's where my strengths aligned with, that's where I could leverage my experience easily. And that's where I was starting to align myself with. I was still thinking in the way that what the corporate jobs and culture has taught me, has modeled me. I think that was my typical way of thinking. And once when I wanted to look into what is the roles and responsibilities of a board of director, that is when I came in touch with this topic of sustainability and started understanding it more. Theoretically, I started understanding it more. And it was an immediate reflection back onto me as to, the core of it is what reflected as an individual. So this was always there, but I didn't know so much as to what is the need or how close is the climate change, first of all. I have no clue like everybody else, and it was just a topic to a good talk conversation, that's it. But I didn't know the realities or the numbers or where we stand and how close we are. I didn't know society or an environment become a stakeholder in everything that we do, how they become, how big a stakeholder they are. I didn't know the disparities across the globe, between countries, between regions, between people, the disparities and the root cause for it. Who created that disparity and why are we living with it? All of this were new learning for me. The core principles were an immediate reflection back onto me. And I started learning, reading more about it, started understanding more about it. And actually I started then speaking about it. It could be through articles, it could be through conversations. And the articles invited some connects and people started engaging me in conversations. I started talking to different companies, the board of directors on strategy and reporting. By then I started expanding technically also as to what are the different frameworks. What is the strategy of a particular sector? If it is a cement sector, what does sustainability mean to them? In a gaming sector, what does it mean to them? All of those, I started understanding it more technically, also principle-wise also. So that initiated a lot of discussions. And I was gradually getting into it, and I didn't have any plans definitely didn't have a plan to establish a startup at that time, or even career. I just realized that, okay, this is what I'm doing now. I'm talking more and more about it. I'm engaging with people on this. And then it is one of my mentors who said, why don't you do it more formally instead of doing everything as a support or a help? You're also spending your time and effort. And why don't you do it and put it in a framework as to what do you want to offer and how people can consume? So I think that's how it happened. So it just I didn't realize that I'm doing this. And I was in the middle of it all of a sudden. That's how I look at it.
But I must say, it happened for good, so that all of us can understand it better, and many more organizations will benefit from your understanding of sustainability as well. Whenever I discuss this with people who are working in sustainability, because that is something bigger than your personal life, right? That is something bigger than just economic returns. So one thing is common whenever we try to understand what are the current challenges around us and how do we offer the solution, then I guess sustainability is something that comes, and irrespective of our specialization, still we can contribute towards the sustainability as well in our own limited capacity. If I would like to ask you about any podcast or book or any series or any resource that has helped you to frame the better understanding of this topic, that our viewers can also view and they can get more insights into that. So
instead of calling out like one book, or in fact, I haven't done that much. Taking one book and sitting with it, I haven't done that much. I go and refer to portions and seek for information and go to different places where I can find. But I would say how I typically make sure that I'm able to understand or grasp everything that is happening around and able to relate to it is actually by doing a number of things, subscribing to a number of things. So I have a set of things that I call as Bible, that throughout the year that you keep going back and referring to it every other day, right? And in fact, in my laptop, all those documents are always open. Those are Bible sets, like your IPCC report, like your the greenhouse gas protocol, like your SDG targets and indicators, all those indicators that is covered. The reporting frameworks, primarily GRI and then the TCFD and SASB, all of this. I mean, these are the Bible set. I think all professionals who are getting into this should make their Bible set and be very familiar with it. And by now you know that what to go for and look and where is it available and where the answers will immediately click. So that is my Bible set. And then I keep subscribing to the industry research reports, and annually that what comes out, right? Like the risk report from World Economic Forum, like the SDG progress report that is released by every country, and the consolidation. There is one place that you can refer to each country and drop down and figure out what they are doing and how they are performing. So that is. Then the initiatives like Climate 100 Action Alliance, they have some set of reports coming out. Then there is Emission Gap Alliance reports that come out, and things like this. So these are some regular set of reports and industry research that keeps coming out. So I subscribe to them and I keep making sure that this year's latest is available. Another few websites that I keep referring back to periodically is industry players like CDP. What are they up to right now? Science-based targets, what are the new announcements, science-based targets, and those things I go, the GHG protocols website, and all of those I go back and check. And then some organizations like rating agencies, MSCI, Dow Jones, Sustainalytics. So I keep referring back to the latest that they speak. And I think my major subscription is the news. I think probably Google knows what my interests are pretty much. And I've also set my interest. It keeps recommending to me, read this. So it is very hard that I miss something unless I don't work few days, I don't work for a week, I'm away from screen. Otherwise, it keeps coming to me. So all major news feeds and news magazines and Financial Times and Mint and Reuters and all of those, CNN, BBC, all of those reports, I mean, they come to me as my feed that Google suggests. And the biggest network of LinkedIn. The network that is established, the people that we follow, the newsletters that come, articles, interviews, all of those, I think they are a great feed. And in fact, they are the ones they keep us on post as to, hey, this happened, that happened, too many things, which one? I mostly keep them saved in a folder, okay, read for later. So all of those add to the knowledge that you want to procure. So I think these are the major things, and this itself is quite a handful, and you can't, it's humanly impossible to work and then to keep in touch with all of this. But then at least knowing what is where, you know how to, where to go. And now I must say, like for everybody else, the magic tool, ChatGPT. So I think I've stopped using Google. I go to ChatGPT and ask all the questions. And in fact, I don't write a piece right now without checking what ChatGPT already knows. And if it is something the tool can write, I don't want to write about it, and I have to say it has partially put me out of job. I have to think more than what the tool knows. So I think these are the sources any sustainability professional must keep in mind, different sources, and subscribe to these things. There will be more to it. I think this is what I follow.
And I must say that we can use technology for better understanding of sustainability, as you do.
Absolutely.
And definitely that's possible for everyone. And I guess the young generation are already tech savvy, so definitely they will be able to do it. And I'll also suggest that reports, like whatever reports you suggested, yes, absolutely. Once we read this report, we get more details about the terminologies and what is the current scenario in this sector. The next thing is how our viewers can connect with you. So if you can share.
I think LinkedIn, I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn. Active as in, I may not be always posting, I'm also reading and commenting. But LinkedIn is the way I think we can interact. And most of my thoughts, anything that I learn new or anything after some time need to be consolidated, connected, I make a post. I try to create something that can add value to people.
Now we are closing this episode, but I would request you if you can close it one of your thought or whatever way, if you have any message for our viewers. So please.
I think I'm a very firm believer that our only way is to build an equitable and sustainable world, and we don't have an option, and that's only way to go. And when I say you must remember Patagonia, the company, right? One of the very inspiring friends for me, although they've always been known as the biggest sustainability player and always they have ranked the highest and all, it was pretty much a big surprise for many of us when the family of founders, they moved the entire stake to trust to run the company and called environment as our only stakeholder from now on.
Right.
And I think many people look at it as an act of charity, but to me, this is not an act of charity. This is a change. They are the thought leaders. They're setting a change in culture. They're setting a change in thought process. To me, that's how I look at it. And Patagonia is not the first company who has made enough money. But Patagonia proved that it is possible to have enough. This is enough to say that this is enough. We're able to differentiate between greed and need. We are able to acknowledge and accept the fact that limited resources cannot deliver unlimited growth. And I think towards the future, there are so many things that we need to do. I would call out my favorite, if I have to look at 3 action items, I would call out is first, I think, establishing a universal basic income and universal basic services for all citizens of the planet. I think that should be our globe's first priority, and not to explore our wealth and our in Mars. I think that cannot be the priority when you have so many billions of people not having universal basic income and services. Number 2, I think our economic systems have served their purpose and they have bottomed out. Be it your capitalism, socialism, communism, they've all bottomed out. It is time to look for an alternate way, which also is based on social justice, environmental aspects, as well as individual freedom. Second is that we need to invent and come up with the thought process need to change. And third, I believe, as the humanity, I think our current definitions of leadership and success, I think they've also bottomed out. They've served their purpose. Right. I think it's time that we redefine them. And it is also aligned to the entire thought process that we have been talking about. For example, I get very inspired by youngsters. Maybe not by the youngsters like youngest billionaire of India, 19-year-old Zepto. No, maybe, yes, at a personal front, it is a huge achievement to run a startup like Zepto, but I am unable to relate. Why do we need less than 10 minutes delivery? So what is the environmental and social cost that we are paying from our pocket to make that brilliant? So probably that is not the kind of inspiration that way the youngsters inspire me. But I do get thoroughly inspired when people, let's say, our cream of a portion of our cream, again, the portion of that is our IIT graduates. Like they are the best of skills, best of education. They have gotten the best of education, and we believe they have been the best of talents. Right. And we consistently lose them to other countries, right? And I get thoroughly inspired when those kids, knowing that we are the cream, and they still stay back and want to solve a social issue or add to the national contribution and then get into a green tech or a socio tech. I think that even if they don't make money, I think that's a leadership and success that we need to redefine. That inspires me. I think these are the three things I would hope that we will see around.
Yeah, that's great. And that's food for thought for all of us, all the 3 points. And this entire discussion was wonderful, and it gave us new insights, new threads to think upon. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to discuss all this with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard.